Hi everybody. Welcome to the fourth Masterclass from Maison les Scénaristes. And today we are welcoming Alice Furtado and Leonardo Levis for their feature film on the quinzaine des réalisateurs called Sangre, with a strange translation with sick, which is not the original title.
Yeah, actually, I started thinking about the story when I was listening a lot to this song, Sick. It's called Sick, and the chorus is like sick all the time. So the first title that came to my mind was the English one, and then it took a lot of time to translate because in Portuguese it's doente, which is very ugly. Yeah. And so we think about it for 5 years, maybe, the Portuguese title. And then in the end, when it was close to finish, I told Leonardo we need to make a brainstorm, think about something. And we were together, and then we made a Skype meeting because he lives in São Paulo and me in Rio. And we were like throwing ideas, and then Leonardo at some point he came with this one, which I think is very nice and has a lot to do with the film also. Yeah. But I could never leave the original English title behind, so it's like this.
The Brazilian title is like we thought about it like last month.
Yes.
So it's very new to us, and I try to recreate like the alliteration that I had on the original one. So sick and sem seu sangue. It's
S, yeah.
So how first of all, Alice, how did you come to cinema?
Yeah, it was in the university, because in Brazil at 18 we have to decide already what profession we are going to do. So I had a lot of doubts, so I tried geography and cinema, and not very sure about anything, but I always loved going to the movies, and since I was a kid it was like something very, very fantastic experience for me. All the time it was like a bit magical. So, and I was always drawn to the art parts of life, I think, and I tried several things, music, and I drawed a little bit, and I was always very interested by the composition of images and geometry, and like I always had a very visual way of thinking, of having ideas. So when I went to the university, I started to have the first lessons on film and language, which Leonardo was the assistant of the teacher. Yeah. And it blew my mind away to understand how was the language in film and how it was done. And then I thought it's the right place for me. So that's how it started.
And how did you start, Leonardo?
Oh, it was like about the same, but I believe 2 years earlier than Alice. And it was in Brazil. You have like we had like the college, the cinema college. It was like blooming in our when we grew up. It was like when I had like 10-year-old we didn't have actually a lot of Brazilian films and a lot of Brazilian cinema. And when I had like 17, 18, when I went to college, it was starting to have like, it was starting to feel like it was a possible career and a possible profession to us. So when you like a lot of movies and maybe you think you can work with that, I entered the college, and I met Alice when she was like I was an assistant. I was not an assistant teacher. Was also a student, but I had like this assistant job in the college, and Alice was a very prominent student when she was like in the first period of cinema, and so we met.
Do you only write or you direct also?
I directed a little bit, but mostly I write. It's like my profession in a stricter sense of working, but I also like to direct.
So the first short films, did you made it at the university or?
Yeah, I made one thesis film in the end of university, which is called Duelo Antes da Noite, Duel Before Nightfall. And it was the short that I came to the Cine Fondation with.
You went to the Cine Fondation?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was the end of my studies there, and the whole crew came from the university, and it's we made it in the school. Then I made another short, a second one, but a lot of time after in Le Fresnois, which I went to study there after.
Is it animation?
No, it's not animation. It's 16 millimeters short film fiction also, but shot here in France. It's called La Grenouille Dieu.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. Yeah.
Did you? So it was screened on festivals. Did you have prizes with La Grenouille?
A little bit, not as much as Duel Before Nightfall, but we went to some. The film went to some cool festivals, like a festival in Serbia that was beginning and that had a very good. Programmers, and we got a prize there for best short and best actress, which I shot with Caroline Doucet, and she got the best actress award. So, and a few other festivals. But yeah.
Did you work already with Leonardo?
No, we worked together in the feature only because Leonardo, I knew he was working with script writing. And I wanted to have someone with a more technical, also that understand better how scripts work. And so I have a lot of ideas, very chaotic way of thinking. And I said, Leo, I have these ideas. Does it interest you to work in a script together to make this feature? And he was working in São Paulo already as a script writer, so I proposed this, and it worked very, very well.
So you went out from university. Did you work straight away with the scripts?
No. When I was at the end of university, I wrote on an online film critic magazine that Alice also wrote, not in the particular time setting, but it kind of overlapped. Mm-hmm. And I produced and curated some film showcases before script writing, and it was I like a lot of it was a very cool job. But then I changed to script writing. I'm a script writer since, I don't know, 8 years ago, 9 years ago. It has a lot of time. But
did you write shorts or features at the beginning?
I wrote some shorts in college, but after it was like my profession, I never wrote a short again. I believe, I don't remember that. And I work on also in TV series in Brazil, and in commercial cinema in Brazil, and stuff like that. And it was for me a great honor to be invited by Alice, because I like a lot of more artistic and experimental films, but it's not what I'm eventually invited to do. So it was a very challenging experience to me.
So how did the idea of I say 666 because Sam c'est Sangre. How does the idea come at the beginning?
It began to me with a personal story, and I started thinking about it in 2012. It was when I was going to Le Fresnois, and I just had a breakup, and I was thinking about how this can be a little rough. I also had a lot of, it went all through my body also, so I was like the character of the film, going to see doctors and examining myself because I had pain, and something that happens to me. So I was thinking, maybe it could be interesting to do a story about this body experience of breakup and loss, and how it can be very intense, especially when you're very young, and the character is even younger. And I was also very interested in horror movies at the time. I'm always very interested in this. and I was seeing the films by Jacques Tourneur and a lot of classical movies, horror movies, and I thought like maybe I would try to mix these things together, these interests together. Also the song that I was listening to, that I should put this in a movie, this song, because it's very strong. And it became like this. And then I started to see things together, write first treatment, rough. And then we started with Leonardo a little.
So you feel like you need a script writer, so you call him?
Yeah, a little bit like this, you know. I have a lot of ideas. They can connect, but it's good to have someone to help to write dialogues, to help to make things more clear sometimes and not just craziness. And it was not just craziness. We already have something.
Eventually, I like more crazy things than you. Sometimes in the process.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes I ask him, am I going too crazy? And I start to, no, let's explain this very well. And then Leonardo, no, just not explain this. Let's go with the wild thing, you know.
So she sent you the treatment?
Yeah.
And what was your first reaction?
It was a very Alice says she never wrote a feature film screenplay, but it was a very mature treatment. Actually, it was in a lot of film funds and all the stuff. Her ideas were more connected than she seems to think. It was a very good project, and I was very excited. And she also she wrote we discussed a lot after that. We discussed theoretically what the ideas were about, how the film was going to be, and all that stuff. But she wrote actually a first treatment of the screenplay, and it was actually a very good first treatment. And I believe I helped a lot. I'm not trying to say I didn't do anything.
She invited you, so.
But she was she was more mature than I believe she thinks she was.
And how did you work? Did you work because you live in Rio,
Yes.
and you in São Paulo, right?
Yeah.
So how did you work together?
I think I wrote a first version, then I sent to him, and then we had some Skype meetings, and then there were some parts that Leonardo says, okay, I take this part, this dialogue, I'll try to write the first, and then we were exchanging like this.
And Rio and São Paulo are not very far away, and I'm from Rio, so my family
yeah, but
is...
we didn't meet so much in person.
We had a few meetings.
Yeah.
When what was
important ones.
Yeah.
Real meetings, not Skype meetings, real meetings.
Yeah,
Real
at
meetings,
some
yes.
points that we really need to talk together and make a direction.
Yeah.
We met and we discussed it a lot, long discussions.
Yeah, we had a few days of immersion and
Yes.
or change it live and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Are you also a fan of horror movies?
Yes, I like
Okay.
it a lot. We both like genre films and all that stuff. This mixed cinema between the commercial genre stuff and the more artistic experimental ones. It was part of the project, and it also interests me a lot.
Yeah, it was one of the reasons that I called him, is that I knew we were close in taste also for cinema, so it made sense.
And did you work separately on the characters? Did you have did you take the men characters? Did you take the women characters, or
No.
you mixed up?
No. It was some parts of the film, here we need to describe this scene, and then sometimes it was Leonardo, sometimes it was me. For dialogue, sometimes he took the dialogue, some bigger ones, and but the characters, I think that most of them were already there in the beginning, and there was one that we discussed more, a little bit more, yeah.
But the film is like a lot about the characters. They move the film, but the characters are like part of like the ecosystem of the film. So I believe it didn't have like a sense to like separate the characters from the whole.
No.
Do you have also did you put personal things in the script like Alice did?
Well, I don't know how. I don't know. I try
unconsciously maybe.
I think that there are some dialogues that has a little bit of Leo's poetry.
Yeah. It has like my style, but I don't know if that's it's a very personal story to Alice, but it has like a lot of identification, I believe, with someone who has fallen in love or something like that. But I try to help. I believe I try to help more enhance Alice's vision than to put my vision or my feelings or my stuff in there. But it actually it works that way. You put it and you don't know it. So I don't know.
And how is it when you have to work for somebody else personal things so personal, because the relationship from Alice she broke. How do you work to get inside this story? How did you? Is it difficult or not?
No, I believe it's like it's difficult, but we talked a lot. We talked a lot before the process, and I know Alice, but I understood the project. I believe it was a project I understood. If I didn't understand it, I would not like go into the project. So I don't know if I try like to think like her. It doesn't make sense, but I try to immerse myself into the project and into the feelings of the project, and I tried to write like that, and I made a lot of mistakes. Alice, sometimes I wrote a lot, and Alice said it doesn't make sense, and it does make sense, and all this stuff. So I said, oh, okay. So I tried to like make things that make more sense than not, but it was like it was that.
I think that it is also something that everyone can identify with, the first love and loss, and it's something that I've met people that have seen the film and they said like I went back to that time and I can totally understand this feeling, and it's something that I think it's a bit universal also.
How many time does it take to have a first draft?
Oh, I don't know. I think that maybe 2 months after the
short.
No, after the first the
treatment.
The treatment to go to the first draft of the script, maybe some months. Yeah.
Because the film had like some funding from the government, and Alice had a treatment, and she tried to get this government grant to write a screenplay. And she got this grant, but from the time like you have the treatment and you have the money for the screenplay, it takes a lot of time. So I believe the writing time of the first draft was not long, but the project like lives with Alice. He lived with Alice for a long time before the actual gestation of the first draft.
Yeah, we had a lot of versions.
How many drafts do you remember?
I don't remember. A lot. Yeah.
I don't know.
A lot, because we keep changing it until before the shooting.
The drafts were like, but it was a draft, and it took like some months, and after that she wrote something again, and I wrote something again, and it discussed again. So it was like from the first draft to the last one, I believe it was like, I don't know, 2 years. I don't know.
Yeah, I was also working as an editor. Leonardo was working in another project, so we weren't doing that full time. It was like sometimes we would take it and work on it, and then we would just breathe a little bit and do other things, and then we would go again.
So I mean, did you trust you together from the beginning to the end of the script? Did you no doubts about each other?
No. No, it worked well. Yeah.
Because sometimes you begin to write a script, and sometimes you have you take another direction, and you say, no, maybe I shouldn't work with this co-writer again.
This would be strange.
Oh, it happens. It could happen.
And so you 2 years to finish the script. So how did you find the money? How did
It was
for the production? Did you have a producer? Or
yeah, we did from the beginning. Yes,
okay.
From the beginning, and we also got the Huber-Bauhaus Fund for development at the same time we were writing, and then we got the major funding in Brazil. In Ancine, we had a line for author production, independent production with an artistic approach. And we tried this one, and we got it. And so we waited. After we got it, we waited for a year until the money was in our account, and we could start shooting. But it was this guaranteed already the film. Then we got co-producers in Holland and in France.
In France?
Yeah.
With Ikifilm, which
yes,
we know Edwina.
Nice. They're very nice. And then we got some fundings here also that helped with the post-production. Mm.
So you start the casting. Did you have an idea of the casting,
yes.
or from long ago, or?
Yeah, I had. Yeah, I always have a strong imagination of the characters' face, how they look like, and then with the casting, we have to change a little bit because reality is not exactly the same. And then, but I think that they have a lot to do with the characters that I've imagined from the beginning. But it was a long process for the main characters. It was like we got hundreds of emails, and then we interviewed like 50 girls, 50 guys, and then a workshop, and it took a lot of time. But in the end, I think they're just perfect. They're not exactly corresponding to what I imagined, but they're better, I think.
And Leonardo, did you have did you give your advice, or what do you think about the casting?
No, I didn't. When she started like the pre-production, and the film was like a low budget Brazilian film, so it was a very tight schedule between the pre-production and
yes.
the actual shooting. So. I believe Alicia had to like make some like decisions like on like her feelings, her instinct was very. She showed me like those are the actors. She see the test, and I saw it and said they're great, but she chose it like all by herself.
And did you because the casting was changing, so the characters changing a little bit? Did you work for rewriting?
No,
while the casting, or
right. It was just one character that we changed a lot, and in the end, it was played by Nahuel Pérez Biscaya, and this was the character that I have chosen the last, and yeah, he changed a lot. So, but we already we
wrote this character.
When I said I want
yeah. We wrote one character. We wrote his scenes, but it was like also a structural problem of the film also. So it was not for like the actor that was chosen. It was like for the character and his questions. But the shooting and all that stuff I didn't. Alicia was she also is a screenwriter, so and the director, so she could change things that made sense to her, and it was great.
Yeah, when we were close to the shooting, I took the script for myself, and when we need to change something, I did it right away. And Leonardo is okay with it. So
Good changes.
You let the boat go.
yeah, it's important.
And how about the locations? Did you have the location in head when you were writing, or?
I had a close scenery in my mind. The locations in Rio, I had them, and also when I was researching and photographing places, I I found the places that I wanted to shoot scenes in Rio, and the other part, which is in an island, I was thinking about an island that's very close to the place where we shoot. We shoot in a place that is not an island because we need the cars to come, and so it's just a practical thing. But it's the same scenery, it's the same landscape.
Did you work with someone for the drawing or
the drawing by Arthur? You mean? Yeah, we worked with an artist called Douglas Kenesse, which is a young artist from Brazil, and we were thinking, because when at some point I decided that I wanted Arthur to be a little bit like a young Basquiat, and then we were thinking about what artist could we call to do this art of him, and then we've seen a little bit. We decided to call someone, and he said like, this guy, he's younger than me and he's beginning, but I think it's really what you need. So it was the production designer that found him, and I think it had a lot to do with the things I was imagining. But it's Basquiat's reference for this.
And you had the drawings before when you were writing, or after?
It was it was after, but it was still in the script writing phase, but it was like more to the end of when we are finishing Arthur's character, and I wanted to give all the density he could have in this, and so it was something that came.
Yeah, but when we wrote, Alice had a lot of references of what she wanted. So we didn't have like the actual drawings, but we had like precise descriptions of those drawings, and
that's true.
And have like a precise description of the island. So we didn't have like the actual things, but we had like the references, and we described it a lot in the screenplay. It was a very visual screenplay.
Yeah.
And the island, does it exist, or is it just...
no, it's a fictional one.
It's a fiction? Okay.
We have similar ones, but this one, no.
Because it's magical.
Yeah, about magical. Why did you put this magic parts in the film? I mean, this very mysterious things in the film. Is it because you like horror and like fantasy or fantasy films, or?
It's because of that, but it's also because I wanted the main character to produce magic and to do something that humans aren't capable of. So that's what she does. But I needed to create a little path for her to get there. So it comes a lot from this. I Walked with a Zombie by Tourneur, which is also in Haiti. It's also an island with a lot of mysterious and fantastic events. And yeah, for me, the idea of being in an island and having all these elements coming, these fantastic elements. Also, the nature is very important. It's something that relates a lot to her inner state, and I think.
And I believe that the project when it was called 666, the English title, it has like 3 parts. There are like three sickness in the film, and it's Alice told me it was about like this love obsession that's like a magical thing, but also a curse one.
Yes.
So the fantastic stuff that happens in the film, it's I believe it's very connected to the emotions of the.
Yes.
It's like a form of trying to put into life the emotions of the protagonist.
And so why is it's almost voodoo at the end?
Yes.
Is it very? Do you have this in Brazil too? Those kind of
we have a religion that
we say in France.
Yeah, we have a religion that came from the same source, came from the same origin in Africa, but it took some. It's a little bit different, and so. But me myself, I'm a real admirer of this, and I think that all Brazilian society should be also. But I don't have a personal connection to it, so I try to go with more the genre research and not going too deeply in the traditions of this religion, because I didn't feel like I was capable of talking from an inside perspective. So I tried to go a little bit more in another way. So going through the cinephile, fantastic genre.
And it's like a religion created a little bit by our cinephile side, but also it's an imagined religion, kind of. It's not exactly voodoo. It's not exactly Umbanda or something, the Brazilian one. And we try like to not specify, because we didn't want to enter like this is not a film about exactly voodoo or about Umbanda. It's like about the fantasy we can create and something like that.
Yeah, and this girl particularly can create, so she takes all the signs she gets from everywhere and mix it together in a very chaotic way and does her own ritual.
Really.
And the ritual I wanted to make it very unique and not relating to any tradition. I wanted to work with a soundtrack that's more like a contemporary electronic, and so I worked with the composer to go to other way. And then the dance also, I wanted to work with the choreographer of contemporary dance, so we created
in the forest at the end.
Yes, some gestures that are not related to any specific ritual tradition. It was something we created for the scene, for the girl. And
the dance we saw on TV, is it Kecak dance from Indonesia?
The Renoir?
No,
it's from India.
Oh, it's from India. Okay. It's very similar as Kecak dance. You know Kecak dance from Indonesia?
I don't know.
It's kind of the same things.
It would be cool to know.
Trance dance.
Yeah, it's some point that we want so much to do something that everything just points us to this director, and
it has a ritual. The ritual is something important, and all the cultures have like this ritual thing that you try to reproduce, and she creates her own ritual.
Yes.
Her own right.
Yeah. That's what you feel when you're the audience, you feel like you're lost, not in a bad way, but in a good way, because you're lost like the young girl. She's lost because she doesn't know. She's lost in her emotions, and that's what you feel as an audience.
It was something we wanted to
exactly what we feel.
There was something in the screenplay that Alice knew the story she wanted to tell, and it had like some causes and consequences in when it talked the story, but we try a lot not to explain to the audience, not to like give the cause and consequence to the audience. So when something made like it was like made a little too sense, or it was like it explains a little more than it needed to explain, we like cut it from the film. The disorientation experience was an important part of the process, but it was important also to not like try to disorientate too much and disconnect. So this balance between disorientation and like identification was like something we worked a lot. Yeah, actually.
And I think that it comes a lot also from the shooting, from the way of shooting also, because I wanted to work with tight shots, and I wanted to be always in the center of the scene and not seeing it from outside with a very clear view. I always wanted to make it a little bit confusing as it is for her, like for the spectator to have like a similar experience.
You told that there is 3 parts in the film. Is it three emotions that you feel as the girl is feeling as
Yes, it's like for me it's 3 kinds of sicknesses. That's why 666. The first one is love sickness. It's when she falls in love with this guy and she's very passionate about him. Then she loses him and she falls in a physical illness state. She's sick in her body. So it's the moment of somatizing the death and taking everything in her body. So it's the physical illness sickness. And then the last one is like the obsession. She gets to the island, she has this idea of bringing him back, and she becomes more and more obsessive until she gets to the trance state. So it's Yeah, it's the third part of sickness. But everything goes in the body, like desire and passion, then illness, and then trance.
And it's always it's also a story of blood.
Yes.
Because tell me about it.
Yeah, because he suffers from hemophilia. It was something that I imagined from the beginning, because I wanted to put blood in the center of the story, and for me it's very, very poetic in a way that we fall in love with someone that the blood keeps running if he doesn't do his treatment, and etc. And I wanted this character to have this relationship with death, and to try to defy it, and try to play with the borders. And he is a very intense and dark character, and he's always trying this limit. And so blood is very important. It's like something that keeps running, and that in the end will come more and more and more. And that's why Without Your Blood.
Is the shots in Surimpression, in the beginning?
Yes.
Is it something you wrote, or something you
Yes.
put it on editing, or?
I've wrote some of them, and others were discovered in the editing. But it's something in kind of imagery that I wanted since the beginning. Yes, because I'm also an editor. I worked more as an editor than a filmmaker until now, and I had some very clear ideas on the editing already in the script.
Yeah. So I said the blood was very present, because in the second part she's throwing up blood.
Yeah,
from
it's
the
like
body.
yeah.
And the third one, the guys, his friend comes back, and well, I won't spoil it, but
Yeah.
he is hungry about blood.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It
All
has-
the blood he loses, he wants to get back.
He wants to get back, exactly.
Yeah, and it has like this kind of horror film that it's a zombie story, it's like a vampire story. So you have like these references in
Yes.
and in the genre, and blood. It's a very important thing to
Yeah.
the horror. I believe.
You have a strong reference from the horror movies. For example, this French guy who has a father or grandfather who was in the island and was making voodoo, and he said, no, just don't read that. Read something else. And she's very interested, and it's like in in the majority of horror films, there is always this guy who said, no, don't do that. Don't watch that. Don't watch this. This is.
Yeah, sure.
Don't do
A
it.
reference for this was Pet Sematary by Stephen King,
Yeah.
which also has a character that says, hit this, don't do this.
Yeah.
And the guy ends doing the same thing as our character does. And for us, it was important. It's like, his grandfather wasn't a nice person. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's not something that he's proud of. So.
But we try not to judge.
Yeah.
Most horror films are like moral tales, and this one is like, it's not a moral tale. It's like a mixed one with.
It's a tragedy with a.
It's a little bit crazier than
Yes.
that.
Yeah. It has a tragic and a very nice side also too.
Yes.
It's always very ambiguous how we feel about what she does and how it ends. Yeah.
And what about for the grandfather? He's in the island, and he has he lives. Is it a part of Brazilian history? Because the presence of white people there, and with indigenes, is it something you want to say?
Yeah, it's very common in these beach places that people from European people from outside, they took a huge, huge share of land to make big constructions and to make resorts and things that it's only going to be for white people also, and that it's very common there. So it was a little comment on this.
I believe the film has like some social commentaries
Yeah.
We try to like we try not to be alienated from the Brazilian
Yes.
culture, but we also didn't try to like explain Brazilian
Make a
reality, make a
statement.
statement or
Yeah.
something like that. So we try like also to have
Think
this-
about it and
Just a
have
little
it.
touch,
Yeah.
like
yeah, think about it, take it seriously, but
Yes.
not like make a statement. It's not a symbology or an allegory of Brazilian reality per se.
This is social reality. Like these three guys who's walking on the beach, and she said, "Oh yes, they were working on construction. They go away, and then they came back." And
Yeah.
and you say, "I don't know why. We don't know why." It's like they want to
Well,
work.
they are
right?
maybe chanted. Yeah, by the guy's mother.
And how long does it take to shoot the film?
5 weeks.
5 weeks.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, with some extra days, a lot of time after. But yeah, and the main thing was in 5 weeks.
It's really quick.
But
Yeah.
it was like a long editing process.
Yeah,
Like-
6 months. Yeah,
What's the budget of the film?
it's 700 euros.
700,000 euros.
700.
700,000.
Ah, yeah, 700,000. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, that's less than $1 million.
Yes.
That's good. No,
This Brazilian grant is like for author films, but it's a low cost grant for
low cost grant.
Yes, for low budget grant for author films. So
Cost grant.
that's it.
But that's not a low cost movie. No, that's not. So you have how much is the grant from Brazilian institution? Is this the whole film? No.
It's yeah, it's close to the
Yeah?
to the whole. Yeah.
It was like 500,000.
Yeah, maybe a little more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
80%, I would say, or yeah.
Because at the beginning we saw the logos of banks and private funds. Did they put money in the film?
They're public actually. They're banks that
okay. And
yeah.
they put money inside in the
It's
film.
it's the same
It's the same
funding.
it's the same funding. Okay.
All those logos are the same funding.
Okay. And then, so after you just go to the editing room.
Yes.
So you're an editor. So how many times does it took you to edit it?
The cuts, you mean?
Yeah.
How many cuts?
No, how many times did you for the editing for the?
How long? How long? It was 6 months with some stops and some moments to breathe, but in the whole it was 6 months. Yeah.
Did you follow the script? Really follow the script, or did it change a lot when you were shooting? Or
Yeah, in the beginning, I worked in a version that was very close to the script, and in the beginning I started alone. Then there was an editor that came, but the first cut was like 2 hours 45, which was very close to the script. And when Luisa came, we started to change things a little bit. And then we just kept changing and changing because we understood that the script had a lot of elements that also took us a little bit away from Sylvia's journey. So we had to simplify it and make it more intimate to her and her journey. So I worked like 2 months with Luisa, this editor. Then we stopped for a little while, and I was still not very satisfied with the middle. And at some point in the end, Luisa was working on another project, and I wanted to still work on this thing, so I called another editor, which is Eva, and we finished the last version. But yeah, we simplified it a lot in terms of the script, and we also changed some orders also. Yeah.
But as the screenwriter, I saw like 4 cuts. I don't know. I saw.
that's what I want to say. If you were on the editing room,
I was not, but she sent me some cuts and I talked, and I sent an email with my comments. So we exchange a little information, but Alice was like, anything. But I believe that the last one that changed a lot about the script is closer to the spirit of the
Yes.
screenplay than the first one. The first one, when I saw it, it was like it didn't have like the magic of the screenplay. It was like. I believe the screenplay in this kind of film, like this more experimental, artistic kind of film, more important than like following it in its style. It's actually a guide, the footsteps to a spirit of the film that's reproduced in the film and the editing. So the last one was closer to my heart as a screenwriter, and then the first one that followed exactly the what the screenplay
I think
was
it's more
about.
the idea of the screenplay and not exactly
Yeah,
the
not-
structure and
yeah.
what it should say in it.
Yeah,
Did you were you on the shooting or absolutely not?
absolutely not.
And how is it very difficult with this kind of films to keep the dramatic structure from the script, shooting
Yeah.
and editing?
Very hard.
Yeah, because it's you're not in a straight way. You're
No.
just taking all the
It's
short.
like a music kind of music
yeah,
for me.
Yeah,
It
and
should work
so
like
was it something very stressing to keep the dramatic
yes,
structure?
Very, 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 very. In the editing, I was very stressed out at some point. Yeah, but I think that now it works like the music I wanted. Yeah.
About the music, there is a lot of music in the film. How did you want the music act in the film? I mean, is it a real character or?
For me, it's like it works a little bit as a narrative in itself. Like it guides us through the emotions and, but not in a. For me, it's not in a literal way. It just builds up a little bit the states that the film is going to go through, and yeah. And I had some while I was editing. I had some references also, like Clair de Lune. When it plays, I put it in the editing, and I said to the composer, "We need this. We need to compose another version of Clair de Lune because this scene only works with this."
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's very related to the emotions and how it should feel. But I think it's a narrative in itself, because sometimes the script and the lines and the dialogues doesn't explain exactly what's going on, but the music just says like, yeah, something is going to change now or something. Yeah.
The script had also music directions.
Yes.
That's what I want to say. Did you have the music before, or did you have some piece of music in your head before when you were shooting? Did you listen to music when you were writing together, or?
I listened a lot.
You should hear this, and
She said it a lot.
You will write a better scene, something.
She said like the Safdie brothers. She said you must see this film because of the music.
Yeah.
And so it was very important to the process.
Yeah, the Safdie brothers. How is it in English?
It's all that heaven. It's not all that heaven allows. It's something like
All That Heaven Allows is the first one. Then there's the second one.
the
Good Time.
good time.
Good Time, which is a film with a lot of music, and I told Leonardo, this is how maybe we'll work with the music in my film also a lot. So. Yeah.
And there are very different kinds of music in your film. Is it? How was it with the composer? Was it a little bit lost, or he was?
Yeah, at some points I wanted something, and he went in another direction, and then we had to discuss a lot, have a lot of versions to get to the same thing. But I think that all the pieces have a lot of his style, which I knew before from other works and all the things he composed. So I really knew his style, and I knew where he could get. So sometimes I just say that we need this element, because I know I'm used to what he's composing, and it was easy in this way because we know each other's work and we know what we need to get there. So yeah, and I think it's even if they are very different, all of them have his style. Yeah.
But you asked the music after shooting, not when you were writing, or did you talk to the composer before when you were writing or not?
Yeah, I asked for one piece for the ritual part. I asked for him to have a first version to rehearsals to make the dance, to create with the choreographer. So he made this piece, but it's in the end it's different from the version that we have in the film. And then in the beginning of the editing, he also started composing some things, and most of the music was done after the last version of editing, because I had 1 month only with him to work in the pieces. So.
And there's the sound is very important in your film, because there are a lot of scenes, very long, with no dialogues, nothing. Did you write the sound parts when you were writing the script?
Yeah, there's a lot of sound indications also. Yeah.
It had like photo indication, sound indication, like kind of the movement of the leaves indication. It had, because it's a film that has not a lot of dialogue, the film, but it was a very precise screenplay in terms of what was being shot.
And you think from the last draft of the script and the end of the mixing, did you think you have everything you wanted, or did you think there's some parts missing, something you missed?
There was a moment where I missed.
Because every film you direct as a director, you try to do your best, but you miss.
Yes,
you miss
yes,
things.
of course, yeah. Until the end, it was like this, and there was a special moment where, in a scene, I was lacking a voiceover that weren't written, weren't recorded, and I called Leonardo and I said, "What can we do now? Because we need to write a little voiceover for this, but we don't have the means to record it now because I mixed in France and the actors were in Brazil." And then Leonardo gave this idea that we could repeat something in the beginning and try there, and I think it works really, really well. And then there was, in the end, there was also a dialogue that we need to shorten, and so we had to cut some parts, and I asked the actress to send me a WhatsApp audio with a line that weren't recorded, and we put it, and it's mixed, and it's very good. It works very well.
Yeah, the voiceover. That's what a question I wanted to ask. The voiceover. It's part of the way she's lost, because you think, then maybe it's a playback, but it's not a playback. So there's this voiceover coming sometimes, and you don't know why. So as an audience, you're lost, like she is. Like you don't know you're lost in the time space. And that's what we feel.
Yeah, it has a different time space. This voice is coming from.
You don't know where it comes from, because it's not from the past. It's not from and you don't know.
That's true. Yeah, it comes from a different time space. Yes.
During the screenplay, in fact, Alice had like a very strict rule about the voiceover when we wrote the screenplay. It was just in the first part of the film. We wrote a lot of voiceover, but it was just confined for the first sequence.
When she was presenting his character.
And just in the editing process, you broke the rule and said, maybe we should have voiceover and the whole film. So it kind of enhances this lost aspect, because it doesn't have exactly a rule. And I believe it worked very well. So we wrote some voiceovers in the editing process.
Yeah.
She wrote some voiceovers also.
Yeah.
So the film is finished. Did you send it to Cannes?
Yes. Yeah, we did.
Do you remember where you were when the phone? Do you have a phone call?
Yeah, I remember.
Cannes? Where were you?
I was finishing the post production here in France. It was my last day in Europe because we did the mixing in Paris and then the color grading here in Amsterdam. Then I came back for France to just fly it back to Rio. And then Andazette from the Kanzen, she sent me a message. How can I contact you? And I said, I'm in France. You can call me now. And then she called and talked a lot about the film. It was really, really nice. I was, very wow.
Then Leonardo, where were you?
Oh, in fact, I believe Alice doesn't know that, but I was talking to a friend who I don't know, who has connections and who know producers who have connections, and I was talking to a friend like Friday night after like a few drinks, and he said, "What about Alice's film?" And I said, "What? I don't know." And he said, "Well, it's kind of chosen to be in Cannes." He said, "What? I really didn't know that."
Yeah,
So-
because I only told him when it was official and when I got
and it was not official yet. So it's like a shock to me. Some friend that I didn't know that knew all that stuff said to me, and the next day I send a WhatsApp to Alice as if they didn't know anything, saying, "What about the film? Do you have any news?" and all the stuff. And she said, "Yes, it's been selected, but it's a secret." So it's very cool.
But when the official announcement came, it was Easter in Brazil, and I was traveling, and I was in a place without internet and very, very hard to communicate, and it was very stressing with all my friends, and yeah. So, but it was very nice, yeah.
And does it change things when you're selected in Cannes?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more attention to the film. In Brazil, it's important also to.
Yeah, it's an achievement in Brazil to be selected in Cannes.
Yeah. And it's a very special place to be. Also, the director's fortnight is very unique. I think they have a very interesting selection. And the first night I was here, and they was making an homage to John Carpenter with his music and a lot of fog. And I was thinking like this place is perfect to be.
This was your year, right?
Yeah, a lot of horror films also. It was very nice. And the homage to John Carpenter was really very touching to me. It was unbelievable, yeah.
And in Brazil, we're like fighting right now politically for this kind of grant that we talked about. So to have like a Brazilian film selected in Cannes, it helps a lot. This year, it helps a lot, like to say Brazilian cinema matters, and so it's important for us as person. Obviously, but it's also important as like to promote and defend Brazilian cinema right now.
And independent production.
Yes.
Last year we had Beatrice Seigné here in Masterclass also. So it's 2 years Brazilian film is selected in Cannes.
Ah, that's nice.
It's great for Brazilian cinema, right?
Yeah. That's very important.
Yeah.
And what's the next project of Alice?
Oh, I'm just starting to write, but I'm not in the point where I can say a lot, but I want to work with one of the actresses from 666. And I'm maybe thinking of sci-fi with the political side also, but it's the very beginning. And also a documentary with the choreographer that I worked with, but both are in the very beginning, so everything restarts now.
Will Leonardo be involved or not?
I don't know, she has to invite me.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah?
No.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's in.
No, it's not decided.
Not decided. Well, yeah, we'll.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
To be with us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.